Hey everyone, Paul Piper here in the studio. I want to go ahead and show you the next drum tip. Today we're going to work on rudiments. And if you remember from my last training, we talked about hand technique, wrist technique, the 80-20% rule, the three different variations of the double stroke roll. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of that, apply it to what we call the rudiments. The rudiments are basically the seeds of all drumming. What I tell my students is that if you don't do your rudiments, drumming can be very tricky because there's a lot of things in drumming that you can use the rudiments for. But I'm just going to go over the first 14 of the 26 standard rudiments on this training, and the next training will be on the last part of the rudiments training, which is going to be the next half of the 26 standard rudiments. But let's start with the long roll. Now, if you remember in the training I did on the last video, we talked about the technique and how we can build the double stroke roll, which is rudiment number 1. So the rudiments on the first 14, we have the long roll, the 5-stroke roll, 7-stroke roll, flam, flam accent, flam paradiddle, flam EQ, rough, single drag, double paradiddle, single rhythm EQ, triple rhythm EQ, and then a single stroke roll. So we're going to go over that today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play each one slow as you follow it on the screen. Again, this is the second video training tip that will be connected to the first tip, which hopefully you had a chance to go through that. So watch that video first before you do this one. Okay, so these are the first 14 rudiments of the 26 standard rudiments. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. It's the long roll. Now, if you look on the page there on the screen, we start with a right, left, left, and then you'll see a shorthand version of 3 slash marks on each note with a tie. Basically, that means that you will probably see that more on a marching snare drum piece, more than you'd see right, left, left, just because it takes up less room when you're reading the music. So let's talk about the long roll. Now, we already did the technique on the first video. Now I'm going to play you the long roll, and I'm going to be using the technique that we did on the first video. Okay, so what I did was I did different variations of the long roll, which is you probably heard some 7s, some 9s, and some 13 strokes. We're jumping to number 2, the 5-stroke roll. So if you see it on the screen, the 5-stroke roll basically is right, left, right, and then of course you have the shorthand version to the right of that. So it's going to basically sound like this. And you can kind of see how cool that sounds once you get it up to speed. And again, all of this training is coming from the first video about hand and wrist technique. So again, before you learn the rudiments, watch video number 1. All right, we're going to jump down to the 7-stroke roll, which is under the long roll. So basically, I always tell this to my students, if they are right-handed or left-handed, the way they do this is we want to do it one way, okay? So one way meaning if they're right-handed, let's always start on the left hand and end with the right. And I'm going to show you both ways. So if you do it too fast, you're going to see how you can struggle by going left, right, left, right, left, right, because you're going to have to bring that stick down twice as fast to catch the next go-around. So if we did it back to back, you can kind of see how fast you have to bring that hand down to match it to start it again. So if you're a right-handed drummer, I always say start with your left and with your right, and then just repeat it, and you'll see how the flow sounds a lot more even. Okay, So that's a 7-stroke roll, and the next one is the flam. The way I always train on the flam is basically you're bringing both sticks up, but one is going to hit the snare drum just before the other. Okay, so when I tell my students this, you can bring both of them down at the same time, but you're not going to get that right effect unless you do one just before the other. So if you look at the flam on the screen, it sounds a little bit like this. So I'm going left, right, right, left, left, right, left, okay? The next one is the flam accent, and by the way, the flam accent and the flam paradiddle are really cool when you do them together, as far as back-to-back goes. So let's do the flam accent, and the way to break down the flam accent is basically a fast left-right followed by a slow left-right, okay? And that will come up with the triplet form. The next triplet form is a fast right-left followed by a slow right-left. It goes a little bit like this. Okay, the next one is a flam paradiddle. I know a lot of you know what a flam paradiddle is. Basically, the way I teach this to my students is basically you're doing a flam accent, but you're adding one more hit on the end, okay? One more right and one more left. Okay, so that's a flam paradiddle. Next one is a flamacue. The way I like to train on the flamacue is basically you're doing a single stroke roll and you're adding a flam on the first and on the fifth note of the group. So you're going to go a fast left right followed by a left. If you notice there's an accent up there. So it's going to go left right, left right, left, left right. Okay, so if we play that, it'll sound a little bit like this. Which is a pretty cool one. Next one is a rough. Okay, now this is where, if you remember in the first video, we talked about the pressed double. Okay, remember the pressed double. Okay, now that's basically all this is a pressed double followed by a downbeat. So when you do the fast left left, you're going to already have your right hand coming down for the stroke. So it's going to sound a little bit like this. All right, the next one is called the single drag, which is basically you're going to take the rough and you're going to add it with 4 eighth notes. And let me break this down a little bit so you understand how this works. If you look at the eighth notes, if we take the rough out of there, we don't need the dotted note in there, because what the rough is doing is basically taking up a half a count of that group. So we have to always identify a measure or a beat or a note. So if we add the rough in between 2 eighth notes, we have to put a dot in there because it identifies it as a half a count being taken by the rough. So if we took the rough out, took the dot out, it would basically be right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. Okay? So if we add the rough, we'll need to put a dot on that first note because it's a half a count greater. You're going to have what we call a dotted 8/16 with a rough in the middle of it. So what I'll do is I'll play both of them. You'll hear how it sounds without the rough. You'll hear how it sounds with the rough. Okay, so that's basically the single drag, what the single drag sounds like. Let's move on to the double drag. Basically, if you look at the stickings, right, right, left, 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 right. The reason why the stickings are so weird is because where the roughs come into play. It's a 6/8 time measure, but when you start adding the roughs, and I like to use analogies for my students, it's kind of funny. I call this the drunk horse, okay, because when you hear it, it sounds like a drunk horse. So anyway, I'll play it slow. The double drag will go a little bit like this. Okay, I called it the drunk horse. Anyway, next one, and I'm just going to zip through these a little bit because I'll make this a fairly short training. Double paradiddle. Okay, so the way I like to train on this is we want to get those accents. The accents do add a lot on the double paradiddle. If we do right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, we'll accent the first right, accent the second left. Okay, so I'll play it with the accents and then I'll play it with the accents. One thing you want to do is when you play it with the accents, always lower the volume of the middle notes because it enhances it a lot better and it sounds a lot better. It sounds a lot smoother. So it goes a little bit like this, without the accents and then with the accents. Okay, so that's the double paradiddle. The next one is the single Rudiments. I call this the drunk three-legged horse for you students that like to have a laugh, right? When you hear it, you'll know what I mean. Okay, so the single Rudiments, notice the rough on the beginning, followed by a triplet, 16th notes with an 8th note end. Okay, here we go. Okay, the next one is a triple Rudiments. Basically, we're taking three roughs, ending it with a 16th note triplet form with an 8th note on the end. And lastly, the single stroke roll. It's in 16th notes, as you can see on the screen, but I like to do the 16th note. I like to do the single roll in a note value series. So I'll start with a quarter note, 8th note, 16th, and if it's in range, I'll do the 32nd note on the singles. Okay, so I'm going to start with a quarter note, 8th note, 16th note, and then a 32nd note. Okay, I just went ahead and just did a full-blown single stroke roll in the end. So, guys, that is the first lesson on the first 14 rudiments of the 26 standard rudiments. Now, what I'm going to do is once you get all of these rudiments down, you can use this as a great warm-up, okay? And I'll probably need my glasses for this one because I have to read the order of them. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the long roll all the way down to the single stroke roll, and I'll probably play each one maybe once or twice. But I'm going to go through the whole page as a warm-up, and I actually do this sometimes before a show. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 through 14. And that is the first page of the rudiments. Again, thank you all for watching. If you need some more information on online drum lessons, feel free to visit us at www.prpproduction.com, and you'll see some information on drum lessons there. Again, guys, thank you for being with me today. The next video will be drum tip number 3, and it's going to be the remainder of the 26 standard rudiments. Have a great day.